I love to play video games, like a lot. Way more than I should. As such, I am completely fine with throwing my money around to developers and publishers when I can, and I think that they deserve it. If there's a game that I really want, I'll eat the $60 or $70 price tag at launch. It just gives me the illusion I'm helping my favorite franchise to stay alive, and that I'm supporting the overall industry. However, I am also completely fine with emulating games. I kinda hate how there's this narrative going around that any and all form of emulation is evil, and it completely destroys the companies out there. I obviously get it to a degree. Plenty of people would just load up their PC with ROMs from sites and play all these games for free. In fact, plenty of people do this with brand new releases. I get the argument, sure, and I don't think I've ever emulated a game that is less than 2 console generations old. However, for me, older games are just a different story. I love to support older games on newer systems when done right. I've bought a lot of virtual console games in my time on the Wii, 3DS, and Wii U. The fact that I can purchase these games on these systems means that nostalgia is just a tap away. I don't have to go through hooking up my old consoles again. But the virtual console service was a thing of the past now. While it was a great way to experience older games, there were a couple of issues. Mostly it was availability and how Nintendo slowly trickled their releases over time. Now though, you can play these games on their stupid and shitty NSO service. I'm not paying to rent 20-year-old games. My main problem with renting these games is the fact that you're at Nintendo's mercy. They could theoretically take down the Nintendo Switch Online services tomorrow, and you'll be left with diddly squat. I really wish I could just outright buy these games to keep on my Nintendo account for the future. That way, if I want to say, play Banjo-Kazooie portably on my Switch in a decade or so, I could. But no, Nintendo has to be a pain in the ass about it. PlayStation has been throwing PS1 games on the PS5 now, which I think is awesome. But again, that selection is slim. They've also tied some of their games to their online services too, which is extremely annoying. I personally think that Xbox is doing the best job of bringing over older games. They give a lot of these games performance increases, and the fact that certain original Xbox discs work on the Series X is simply mind-blowing to me. At least to my knowledge, all these games can be bought alone too. There's no need to subscribe to anything. The problem again though, is that selection. I get it. Meanwhile, it's easy for me to say, I want to play all these older games, so others must feel the same way. I get that my head is up my own ass, and a lot of people just don't care about retro games. Most don't care about backwards compatibility at all. Most people who buy a PS5 will want to, wait for it, play PS5 games. Most people are hyped about the newest Call of Duty, FIFA, Battlefield, maybe a couple of big console exclusives in there like God of War, Spider-Man, and Halo, so even if it is relatively easy and cheap to port these games over, the money may not be worth the effort. I completely get why there is a moral gray area about this topic. I will always look up where to buy a game if I become interested in it. Like if I look up where to buy Monster Rancher right now, I stumble across the Steam and Nintendo eShop page. Since I loved Monster Rancher when I was young, you bet your ass I bought Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX for $30, and I enjoyed it for over 100 hours. I could have just emulated them. Sure, that's free, but Koei Tecmo went through the effort of porting these games and selling them on newer hardware. They also added a couple of new features that I wouldn't get while emulating them. I really want to reward that behavior. Now what happens when I look up Pokemon Black and White 2? I want to finally play these games because they are so highly talked about in the Pokemon community. I get sent straight to sites like eBay and Amazon, where the publishers, developers, and whoever helped make these games a reality don't get a cut. It also doesn't help that these games go for around $60 or so, and that buying retro games have become a shit show recently. Just the good old usual, like prices rising, more counterfeits popping up, and a lot of games being buttholes and manipulating the market. Or how about GameCube games? Besides a few examples like Super Mario Sunshine and the new Play Control series, very few GameCube games actually get re-released officially. So I look up where to buy Chibi Robo, and it's the same result as Pokemon Black and White 2. A lot of eBay listings that ask for way too much money. At this point, I just say screw it, I'm emulating this shit. If Nintendo one day threw Chibi Robo on the eShop, I'd buy that in a heartbeat. It's annoying how expensive older games are, and that's not to mention that it can also be a hassle. You need to own the system that it's on, a controller for it, memory cards, and some TVs today just simply move to HDMI only. But I'll be honest, emulating has its pros for sure, but it also has some annoyances. Sometimes getting a controller to work with certain emulators is a bigger pain in the ass than it needs to be. For certain games, finding a good ROM can also be a challenge. That's not to mention that the graphical and performance issues can also rear their ugly head. Some systems like the PS3 are notoriously difficult to emulate and require an expensive PC to do so nicely. When using an amazing emulator like Dolphin that naturally recognizes GameCube controllers and most games run well, then sure, emulation seems perfect, but it's not like that all the time. Whenever I see a port of an older game that I love pop up on Steam, Xbox backwards compatibility compatibility program or virtual console, I would just get so happy. There's something so great about being able to play Pokemon Crystal on my 3DS, Psychonauts on my Series X, Glover on Steam, and Toy Story 2 on my PS5. It's neat playing these games on newer hardware, with the new controller, not having to drag out more hardware, and giving people an easy way to pay and support these older games. That is the kind of stuff that I really want to support. Maybe I am just a shitty person, but I really don't feel any remorse when I rip ROMs from sites if the publisher doesn't even offer a legitimate way to buy and own the game. I have the money, I'll pay. I'm still dreaming of the day when companies let loose like a cannon and just throw a bunch of their games on Steam or other modern storefronts. It seems like companies don't respect their legacy content at times, so why should I respect their shitty subscription options? Tying Nintendo 64 games to a subscription service? Screw that, it just complicates shit and takes control and ownership away from the consumer. Since this is a video on emulation, this quote is a must. Gabe Newell, the president of Valve, has said, "The easiest way to stop piracy is not by putting anti-piracy technology to work. It's by giving those people a service that's better than what they are receiving from the pirates." This is a quote that I back up strongly. Once these companies start taking legacy games seriously and give us an advantage or two over pirating them, I will happily buy them. I like this topic because a lot of my favorite games are older and have never been re-released. These games become expensive and are hard to experience as a result. The fact that the original Digimon world is stuck on the PS1 is sad. The fact that Double Dash is stuck on the GameCube is annoying. The fact that the original Super Smash Bros. Never made a jump to the Wii U Virtual Console, so it's stuck on the Nintendo 64, gets me riled up. There is no way to legitimately buy these games and support their publishers in the process. Just let me defend my morally shitty take, okay?